Hi folks, Jack Spirko here today with a question for you, and by answering it you can help us build the GenForward platform and make it better. There's two real missions of the GenForward platform. One is to strengthen family bonds today, to enable greater communications and greater understanding of each other and ourselves right now. And the second, which is equally important, is to preserve that information, preserve the lessons in the individual family history, our hopes and dreams for future generations. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, many of whom we will never meet. Some, they may only know us as a name unless we do something like this. And all of the things that we've learned and all of the things that we went through will be lost if we don't preserve this information. And to make that easier for you guys who are members of GenForward, what we've done is we've put together a great deal of questions that we know are highly universal, and we've loaded them into a database. So when you set up your account, you can just start answering questions. If you don't like a question, you can request a different one, or change it, or edit it, or make your own questions. That's all good and well. And we did that because we know it will be easier. We'll get people started. 5 minutes a day, answer a question or two. And over a year, it'll be amazing how much information you've put away for future generations. But we need your help. So my question for you is, if there was one person in your past who's no longer capable of answering it, whether it be a grandfather or grandmother you remember fondly, or a parent you remember fondly, or even not so fondly, or if it's just someone you never really met them, you never had a chance to meet them, you just know their name and you know a little bit about them and you'd like to know more, who would it be and what question would you ask them? And we'll take many of these questions, and if they're too specific, we'll kind of generalize them a little bit, and we'll put them into the database if they're not already there. So that's how you can help us. So who would you ask, and what would you ask them? What would you most want to know? And I'll share with you who I would ask and what I would want to know. If I could pick one person, it would be a man that I met one time in my childhood. He was my great-grandfather on my father's side and on my grandfather's side. So he was my grandfather's father. I met him one time, and he was a very old man in his late 90s. He couldn't talk much, and I think he spoke only mostly Ukrainian, even at that point. And he also had a tracheotomy done for what reason, I don't know, but you would think with as much as smoking was popular back in the day, probably would have been a type of throat cancer. So he couldn't speak well, and he did seem to lend more towards speaking Ukrainian, which many of the other family members spoke, but not English. So I don't know really what he said. I was very young myself. I think I was about 6 years old. And he was bouncing balloons around with the children even at that age. And he seemed very, very happy. And I have this one fleeting memory of meeting him that one time and simply being told, "That's your great-grandfather." And I know a little bit of his story. I know that he was born in the Ukraine. I know that he came to America, that he brought his part of the family here. And I know that he settled in a place called Jonestown, near Minersville, Pennsylvania, where much of my family still resides in the general area. And I know he came there. I know that. And I can surmise why he might have left the Ukraine and come to America, the American dream, that type of thing. But I'd like to know in his words, what made it worth it to him to pick up his family and travel so far and come to a place in central Pennsylvania and settle down and continue and grow his family there? What did he expect? And did it meet his expectations? Whatever his dream was it realized? And I'd like to know what really was wonderful, what he really did get, what he's really thankful for, what was what he expected. And I'd like to know the things that let him down, the things that he felt, weren't really what he expected, and what adversity he had to go through that he never thought he would have had to go through. I'd like to know those things. It's too late for me to know them, but it's not too late for me to journal for my son and my grandson and, someday my great-grandchildren, why I moved from Pennsylvania to Texas and chose to settle here. It's not quite the same move, but in the future they may have that question. So that's what I'd ask, and that's who I'd ask. There's actually a ton of things I would ask and a ton of folks that I would ask, but if I could just do one, That's who I'd want to ask, and that's who I'd want to know. And it's probably because I did, in fact, actually see him and actually meet him and actually was told, that's your great-grandfather. But I was a young child, and, you know, a guy with a tube in his throat that only speaks Ukrainian that's almost 100 years old is a little bit intimidating, and I really didn't take advantage of that opportunity. I don't know that many 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds, which would be about the age I was at the time, would. But I'd sure like to have the opportunity to ask that question. Who'd you ask and what would you ask? That's my question for you today. Remember, if you want to be part of what we're doing at GenForward, just check out GenForward.com.